Today's video is all about how to slow travel in Florence, Italy.
We've spent an entire month in Florence in the winter and had the opportunity to experience this beautiful city without any of the crowds.
Stick around to the end of the video to find out our tips for how to experience Florence like a local.
To our subscribers, thank you so much for coming back for another episode. If you're new to the channel, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Gillian. We're a couple who saved and invested our way to financial independence. Our financial independence allowed us to quit our corporate jobs and head off for a life of slow travel.
If you're looking for how-tos for financial independence, early retirement, or slow travel, you have come to the right place. So click on the subscribe and notification buttons so you don't miss a single episode. We put a new video out every single Thursday.
Since we left our jobs, we've been enjoying a life of non-stop slow travel. We started off in Poland before heading over to the Ukraine for a few weeks. Then we were down in Turkey for almost 3 months, and we're now based in Italy. If you'd like to learn more about the slow travel lifestyle, you can check out our series of videos linked up here and in the description below.
We've now stayed a full month in the city of Florence and we have been loving it. So today we're going to share with you our best tips for how to slow travel in Florence in the winter. And also, by the end of the video, we'll share our tips on how to do it all like a local.
Let's start off by talking about what we mean by slow travel. So there's no set definition for slow travel, but for us, this means spending longer than a long weekend in a place. And typically, we'll spend at least 2 weeks, if not a month, in order to really soak in a place and enjoy it instead of rushing around, seeing the major sites and heading off to a new destination.
So when we stay a longer period of time, that really relieves some of the pressure that you sometimes feel when you're a tourist. So we don't arrive in a city and say, these are the top 10 things that we need to do in the next 3 days to say that we've successfully seen the city. We have the luxury of time, so we can really enjoy a city at a leisurely pace.
Our arrival in Florence was a perfect example of this. I remember on just the second day, we took the dogs out for a big walk around the city, and we were strolling along, and I looked up and I said, oh my goodness, there's the Duomo right there. We had just kind of discovered this amazing site, which of course many tourists purposely structure their vacations around going to see these sites, but for us it was just a walk with the dog. So what a leisurely and wonderful way to discover the city.
One more thing to say about slow travel is that it also gives an opportunity to establish a few routines. And at the end of the video, we're going to come back to why that's so important if you want to experience Florence like a local.
We have a whole video talking about the benefits of slow travel, which we'll link down in the description below. Let's talk about what time of year to go as a slow traveler. Now, Florence is a beautiful city any time of the year, but there are a few reasons why winter is one of the best times to go as a slow traveler, starting with price of accommodations. Accommodations can be had at a much more affordable price given that it's the low season. Second of all, it has a fraction of the tourists in the winter months as compared to the summer. And for a city that is well known for being overrun with tourists, that is certainly a bonus of coming in the low season.
Now you might be concerned about what the weather is like in winter. And in truth, there is a mix of very sunny, beautiful days along with some cooler, cloudy days. And what I would say is that that's one of the benefits of being a slow traveler in the winter. So if there are a few days in a row that are a little bit rainy or cloudy, you can always wait them out in a lovely museum. Now, if you are a regular fast traveler or tourist, then of course you don't want to waste the little bit of time that you have with some rainy days. Of course, you want to be searching for the best weather possible. So that's why winter might work a little bit better as a slow traveler.
Moving on to where to stay. So for long-term or slow travelers, Airbnb is definitely the best choice when it comes to affordability, having a bit more space, and it also gives more of a local feeling when you're staying in someone's apartment. We actually have a video that talks about how to pick the perfect Airbnb, so you can check that out in the description below. When choosing where to stay in the city, you have a few options. You can certainly stay right in the core near the main historic sites, which is very convenient, or you can go just across the river to Oltrarno, which would have a little bit more of a local feel and possibly slightly lower prices. And if you want an even lower price point, you could consider going out into the suburbs.
Since we've been staying here for a full month, of course we chose an Airbnb. We happened to choose one that is fairly centrally located. So it's near the historic center, and it's also quite close to the Arno River, which has been just a perfect location for us. So everything is really just 15 minutes away, no matter what it is and where we want to go. We're also really enjoying our immediate neighborhood. So we have lots of shopping close by. We've got a lot of little pastry shops and stand-up espresso bars and little pizza places. So really all the food we could want just within a few blocks from us. For the inside of our Airbnb, we've been really happy with this space. So we are on the top floor of a very typical apartment building here, and we have windows on both sides of the apartment. So the views across the terracotta rooftops to the hills of Tuscany have just been amazing. It's been really wonderful to wake up here every morning and feel like we're really immersed in the local culture.
In terms of activities, in the winter, you can enjoy all the same beautiful sights as in the summer. If you've been following our channel, you'll know we enjoy taking free walking tours that are on offer, and in Florence was no different. But this time, we decided to try a free walking tour available through the Rick Steves app, and we found it to be really quite good.
Now, of course, one of the things that Florence is best known for is being the birthplace of the Renaissance. And there are so many museums and galleries and so many ways to enjoy culture here. So the one that stood out the most for me was the Uffizi Gallery. Now this one I was a little bit nervous about going to because I had read online about the incredible lineups, like at minimum 2-hour waiting and the need to buy advance tickets, and just how concerned I had to be about the crowds that would be waiting for me there. Well, we were there in winter, so it was absolutely no problem. It was very easy, but this gave me an opportunity to see some of the masterpieces basically by myself with lots of elbow room. So I was able to stand in front of Botticelli's Venus de Milo all on my own for a few minutes, and that was a really special moment.
Now, I'm always a fan of outdoor attractions, so for me, one of the highlights was walking through the Boboli Gardens, which are in behind Pitti Palace. So with the lack of crowds, it was just a very relaxing afternoon to stroll through, past the fountains and through all the green space. Just a perfect place to spend an afternoon.
Another indoor site that I found to be really memorable was the Medici Chapel. So this was just a beautiful structure on the inside, and it really showed the grandeur of Florence back during the Renaissance.
Beyond paid attractions, we took countless walks down the Arno River, past Ponte Vecchio and beyond. Not only was it a great place to bring our dogs out for a walk, but it also seemed to be one of the best ways to get anywhere in the city.
We also took an afternoon to visit Fiesole. That's a small community that's on a hillside overlooking Florence. So we just paid a couple of euros, we hopped on a bus, and then we could actually hike further up to a convent that gave us an incredible view across the whole Tuscan countryside and particularly of Florence. Now let's talk about one of our absolutely favorite topics, which is food. So we obviously managed to eat a ton of great food while we were here in Florence. And one of the things that we wanted to do was really make sure we tried some of the classic tastes of Florence. So we sought out some of those different foods and food experiences.
A typical Italian breakfast would be an espresso served with some toast or maybe even a pastry. So we enjoyed visiting the stand-up espresso bars a few times, where you can get your beautiful fresh espresso with a pastry, possibly one that's filled with cream or custard and is quite a decadent treat.
We also tried what is, I believe, the classic Florentine street food. So there isn't a lot of street food here in Florence, but this is one thing that is still available at a number of kiosks around the city. So this is basically tripe. It is, as far as I understand it, the stomach of a cow that is stewed away, and it's put into a wonderful fresh bun, and then ideally served with a little rustic red wine to go with it. So we had a couple of those in the morning before heading off to the market, and that was pretty delicious.
Now let's talk about scacciata, which is a bread found in northern Italy, and I have to say it is delicious. You can have it on your own or you can have it as a sandwich. And we enjoyed a huge scacciata sandwich at a local shop where they just filled it with prosciutto and cheese and arugula, and so delicious. This place, although it was popular with tourists, there were definitely locals eating there, and I would certainly recommend it. I even enjoyed it so much that I was making scacciata sandwiches at home on a pretty regular basis.
Of course, being in Italy, we had to try lots and lots of gelato while we were here. So there is a gelato place on almost every corner in Florence, which is amazing. You do need to avoid the places that are very touristy, where they have huge piles of very brightly colored gelato. Instead, you can do what we did and you can seek out the little family-run places. We were fortunate enough to live right across the street from a cute little family-run place that had lots of delicious homemade flavors. So we got to experiment with quite a few of those. Now for our tips on how to experience Florence like a local. So this is where slow travel really pays off, because now you have the time as a slow traveler to really get to know a city and move past that typical list of the top 10 things you need to see as a tourist.
So our first recommendation is to learn a few words. It's much easier to break the ice if you can say buongiorno and grazie, just a few pleasantries to open the conversation.
The other thing that we recommend is to seek out authentic eating experiences. Get out of the tourist area, walk around and see where the locals are going. So a very fun thing that we did was to seek out a local lunch. So there are standard fixed price lunches available in lots of restaurants through the city. And you'll get a first course and a second course of a lot of food, plus a quarter liter of wine per person. So it becomes quite a fun experience. The one that we happened to go to was extremely local. So there were hardly any tourists around. And in fact, the restaurant was filled with all the construction workers who were coming in for a big feed in between their shifts.
The other way to have authentic eating experiences is to cook at home. And you can make it local by visiting a market, such as the San Ambrosio market, which we've been to a few times, and you buy what's in season, what is plentiful, and you try making some local dishes that maybe you've seen on the menus.
Our next tip for experiencing Florence like a local is to go out and explore the city beyond the Duomo. So I know it's very exciting to tick off all of the great sites that are located in the central area, but if you cross the river and go into some of the other neighborhoods, for example, going to Piazza Santo Spirito, which was a lovely square, and it's definitely where the locals go on a weekend. So you can get an espresso, watch the world go by, see the little local markets, and just enjoy the day.
Our fourth tip is to seek out interactions with locals. And one of the best ways to do this is to establish routines so that you come in contact with the same people on a regular basis. So for example, it could be getting your morning coffee at the same espresso bar, or for us, it's going to the same gym every morning. That just gives you the chance to get to see some familiar faces, and eventually they'll get used to saying hello back to you too.
The other thing that we recommend, if you don't feel like going to the gym or getting a coffee every morning, is you can also seek out some meetups. So typically a meetup might be something that you can find on a platform like Meetup or Couchsurfing, where you can connect with locals or with expats or with other travelers. So it'll give you a chance to meet with people in person, maybe practice a little Italian, or maybe give other people a chance to practice their English. And it's just a great way to connect with people while you're on the road.
Those are our best tips for having a memorable, slow travel experience in Florence in the winter.
In our next video, we're going to be sharing how to save more than half your income or even more. If you're interested in accelerating your journey to financial independence, then this will be a great video for you.
So be sure you subscribe and hit notifications so you don't miss it. We thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.